In this interview, I sit down with Republican primary candidate Casey Putsch. Putsch has undergone significant criticism recently in social media campaign attacks. Yet despite these, he has beaten the odds and secured his name on the ballot against Vivek Ramaswamy. Over the next hour, we touch on topics including data centers, human trafficking, establishment opposition and bot campaigns, and perhaps most importantly, the looming economic crisis coming to the heartland. With over a third of the world's fertilizer now blocked in the Strait of Hormuz, and global gas prices continuing to rise, Ohio is poised to be hit with what many economists predict is a global recession, if not a complete collapse through the loss of our reserve currency status, now that Iran is demanding oil through the strait be traded in yen. It is a very real possibility that the next governor of Ohio will be presiding over a massive economic calamity, and the question voters will need to ask themselves is who they believe is best poised to lead them through. Thank you for joining us at the Ohio Register. This is Jeff Skinner, editor-in-chief, sitting down with Ohio gubernatorial candidate Casey Putsch, the outsider wildcard candidate running in the Republican primary. Mr. Putsch, thank you for taking the time to speak with me this evening.
You got it. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So when we last spoke, you had just announced your candidacy, but a lot has changed since then. You've recently secured your name on the ballot as a major checkpoint for the campaign. How difficult was that endeavor, and has there been, any establishment opposition, I guess, to that process?
That's the good question. The endeavor in terms of being straightforward, was relatively simple. I had fantastic volunteers. The people in general of Ohio and America are wildly behind what this campaign represents and stands for. So in that circumstance, it's easy. And then you just have to get into basic people management. Now, cutting directly to the chase, there's been at least, well, there's been a few people in our campaign where it's like, are you a plant or just completely horrible? And it's difficult to be that horrible that perfectly. So we found ourselves at a number of junctures, one of which being a relatively short time before the deadline to get the signatures, when everybody circled around an individual that I'll say nicely was a bottleneck in stopping things from happening. Fortunately, that person left, and someone else had. And we were able to get everything streamlined well and have everybody working well and getting signatures. But another hurdle came just a day before turning in that manifested the day before turning in the signatures. I was going through all of them by county and doing all the tally marks and everything like that. And a few hours before I was slated to drive down myself and turn in all of the petitions, I added them up. And there were somewhere between 500 and 700 less than our team had been counting and keeping track of.
Wow.
And we were very close to the minimum threshold, which would be nowhere near where you would feel safe on getting on the ballot. And what's wild about that is there was a few hours before I found out, there was an account clearly based in Ohio that is pro Vivek that wrote something to the effect of gubernatorial candidate, breaking news, having been unable to secure the minimum amount of signatures, they have dropped out and are running independent. And I didn't
That's
pay any
not that. Yeah.
attention. Yeah, because it's BS. But then a couple hours later, I go, wait a minute. You know what I mean? So there were things like that, but we did get on. The volunteers went out that night and got a few hundred extra. So beyond that, it's just really the managerial aspects of the campaign, and of course the challenges of doing something that brings a lot of attention, and some heat. So that was it. But we're here, man.
Yeah. Now, there were rumors or at least concerns floating around social media that there could be complaint filings against your ballot placement.
Oh,
Has anything been filed?
not to my knowledge. May I ask what those rumors were? Because I didn't actually hear any of those.
Well, there was a lot of, I will say concerns because at the initial announcement that you had turned in your petitions
Hmm.
with the signatures, uh, there was I guess a post from the Secretary of State stating like, hey, people who wanted to file complaints have this long to do it, which was an odd
Mhm.
statement to make given the, contested primary and
Well,
the
yeah,
controversy around it.
I'll be honest, that was an oversight with someone on the team who put out that we were on the ballot before it was time to do so. Um, so that's understandable by the Secretary of State. We obviously remedied that. That was something that it wasn't my doing. I wasn't aware of. But yeah, we remedied that. So, that makes sense, but everything was fine.
That's good to hear.
Mhm.
So along those same lines, as you're, probably aware, there's an active case being heard. I believe it's up in this some level of Supreme Court, if not the top branch right now, regarding birthright citizenship, the executive order
Mm.
from Trump. Given that, on the subject of complaint filing, do you think that there could or should have been one regarding your opponent's ballot placement, given that he may be ineligible if that executive order goes through?
I'm thinking to answer this nicely. Since it's later in the evening, I want to say something punchier. You know, Vivek shouldn't even be here at all. I'm not speaking of in terms of citizenship or anything like that. He's a revolting candidate across the board. The only reason he's here is because he was manufactured. He's a globalist. In no way is he conservative. In no way does he reflect Republican values. In no way does he represent the people of Ohio and their heritage. He's insulting. He's undergoing RICO charges. He jets off to the Turk and Caicos Islands when we have great beaches here. And we all know it's not for the beaches. That's a place billionaires like to go because there's different like laws and things that relate to money, etc. Or it seems that's the most plausible scenario. There's nothing remotely about Vivek Ramaswamy that anybody should have ever allowed him on the ballot or be running for office here at all. He cares only about himself. He has no businesses here. He does no philanthropy here. He didn't even go to higher education here. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. He had campaign finance, we'll say curiosities about most recently of the Puerto Rican trip, which what does that have to do with Ohio? He spent something like five to $700,000 on private jet support campaigning in Ohio when you drive anywhere you need in a few hours. Um, and that's on his campaign finances, he was saying. His bodyguard was arrested under federal drug trafficking charges with ties with fentanyl, and that guy's wife is allegedly a school teacher. None of his bodyguards were even licensed to be. Um, you know, Honestly, if anybody dug into him, I'm sure you could find plenty of other things. But the fact of the matter is, he's a billionaire multiple times over. He's connected to everybody there, and his entire existence just simply shows that we basically have no functioning government. And he was 100% astroturf plant. And the only reason anybody's supporting him at all right now is because Fox News isn't actually news. It's an entertainment channel. They don't have to do fair use time. And it's still used to propagandize the boomers who just sit home and still think news is actually real. Otherwise, Vivek in general is 100% burning down across social media platforms. And the only thing he's got going for me is a somewhat cute family. So they'll start running a $10 million ad campaign starting now, having other people say positive for him. So to answer your question about should somebody have complained about being on the ballot, sure, maybe. I don't know. All I know is that he's here and I got to fight against it, man. Save Ohio.
Well, that's quite a lot. I do want to kind of go back
This
because you
is
said
scratching the
something.
surface.
Yeah. Well, you said something that immediately was of interest to me. You said there was a group of islands that he's flying to where some sort of shady business is known
Yeah,
to go on. Could you expand on that?
well, to be fair, Amy Acton, the Democrat candidate, who I must also say is absolutely revolting. I mean, she has a nice smile and hair, but I think that's about her only good qualification right now is just not being Vivek. Um, but anyway, enough of her. She had posted the flight log of a private jet with an N number relating to Vivek. Now, that may or may not be his campaign jet, or he may or may not be on it. But it weirdly jetted from Cleveland, presumably Cleveland Hopkins, and went down to the Turk and Caicos Islands. And it's fun. You can ask Grok, what are reasons a billionaire would go to the Turk and Caicos Islands? And there's a whole lot of them that deal with money. So it's fascinating. And it's just more than disheartening to think of a person with all these dealings going on is running for the governor of Ohio because he cares about Ohio. But in no way do I know if he was specifically on that plane or what he was doing there. But it's weird, ain't it?
It's interesting, to say the
Hmm.
least. It brings me, I think, to the next question or point, which is the seriousness of candidacies. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
conversation right now. That's the big rhetoric online is X a serious candidate or not,
Oh
right?
yeah, that.
So I do
Did
want
you
to get
see
into
my
that.
whole series of things coming out relating to that a while ago?
I did see one of your recent YouTube videos, which was the like behind the scenes,
Is that the Milo related one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But
So
yeah, go ahead.
you mentioned the word serious campaigns or being unserious candidate, that sort of thing, yeah?
Hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah. So
Yes.
that's the allegation I think is thrown out a lot
Toward me.
with, well, yeah, in short. And I think some of it comes down to some of your unfiltered, sort of commentary that's come out on YouTube. So I guess what I really want to ask you is, A, do you see yourself as a serious candidate? B, in your opinion, what makes a serious candidate?
A serious candidate is simply one that the populace takes seriously, and they are. All of the money raised for this and that we've utilized for the entirety of the campaign team and all have come from the people. There's no foreign interest, there's no dark money, there's no big PACs, there's no big fundraisers. This is the pinnacle of the normies going, So yeah, it's 100% deadly serious, and it's enough that it's a big problem for the GOP and Vivek, um, to say the least. So now that being said, excuse me, words, as you know, are used in politics and oftentimes coined and pushed through everything from bots to influencers to social media. We've seen things like what is it, Operation or Project Mockingbird through the news, where all the different so-called news outlets are reading the same scripts. So this is done, and when you're able to brand a movement or a person or a candidate with a word, that's a powerful aspect of the psychology relating to politics. Um, so the simplest thing is any candidate is serious if the people take them seriously. Obviously, we are on the ballot. We are simply the choice other than Vivek. Me and my candidacy represents the people of Ohio with a nail on the head. It's very clear that I care only about the people of Ohio and their future. It's also very clear that I've been the only one standing up against things like the data center, or that has, frankly, the testicular fortitude to stand up to atrocities coming out of a little nation known as Israel. So people appreciate someone who can actually stand courageously for them and for things that are going on and not glossing it over. In regard to things that could be considered more unfiltered or coarse, yeah, the establishment's not going to like that. They're going to push back. And the reason being is establishment has to be perfectly poised. They have to be running all the political science because they're 100% out of touch with reality. They're actors. They're bad actors. They don't know the people. It's not about doing what's right. It's about the industrial complex of politics and the money that comes in it from corporations. That's why everything that you see about Vivek and who he's really connected to and what he's really doing is only to leverage and sell out the people of Ohio and their future, specifically for big corporations, big tech, billionaires, money, period, foreign interests. That's it. So, yeah, he has to play a game flawlessly because there's nothing relatable about him. There's nothing organic about him. There's nothing really real about him. So, yeah, there's going to be massive contrast. Some people will push back. There'll be people that are so accustomed to the machine of politics. They'll go like, I don't understand why he's not always wearing a suit and why he's not doing this and not speaking like that. But fortunately, we are in a time of social media where people, uh, in general, have a very good filter for BS. and a lack of genuineness. Not everyone, but many of them. So that's something that's frankly working in my favor, and is also telling of, I'm trying to remember the names that wrote about this. Basically, like the fourth turning of a nation and the history of a nation in crisis, and how it goes from establishment in a managerial class to what is considered genuine and real. And it becomes less about, um, you know, specifically what you're trying to push, but simply, are you real and do you belong? And myself and Vivek are really the perfect example of that study.
Hmm. That's really interesting. Eh, I guess at its core, do you think that there's anything more to that specific term or tactic that is being used in
Oh yeah,
attacking?
absolutely. On X, I've seen it and scoped a lot of this out. I got a tip a while back ago. I can't even really remember where it was. So many things come my way. But I was warned that the Vivek camp was going to try to label my campaign both unserious and clownish were the words he used. And I'm going to come right back to that. But through my campaign, I've seen every attack that's come. Early on, somebody in the campaign leaked it before we announced to somebody that we knew would flip out, and he knew how to exactly pose it in a way that she would try to kill us in the crib. Of course, didn't work. 4 days into the campaign, it was already making a big enough splash that old Laura Loomer got directed to come to make a giant hit piece with video clips and layouts, trying to connect me from everybody from MTG to Thomas Massey to Tucker Carlson, which frankly I don't mind. It wasn't true, but the Laura Loomer thing blew up in her face, and we crushed her. And then later, I'd gotten that tip related to the unserious and clownish they were going to try to do, and I got kind of a wild idea because what I noticed is, and this is still to this day on X, if I criticize Trump bluntly, or I'm harsh toward Trump, MAGA, or you try to stand up, for instance, like Thomas Massey when Trump was going against him, I'll get bombarded with bots. The bots will come in, and I've saved screenshots like the same things. There was one bot wave where they were trying to label it and going, I'm from Ohio and I've never even heard for you. I've never even heard of you. I grew up in Ohio, and who are you? They were all like the exact same wording. Some of them were identical, and people were even notating there's bots. Um, but I had done a thing where I rage baited everybody by being like really harsh on Trump. Um, and I said something like, if Trump can't even hold things accountable for the Epstein files, why the fuck should I obey the speed limit? Sorry if you have to bleep that. Um, and I just pushed it a little harder, went at real Donald Trump effing take care of this sign, we the effing people. And I posted a picture of me flipping the bird from a orange exotic car with the door open. And I knew that would rage bait people. And so, yeah, everybody went nuts. But people remarked that there's bots in it and you're getting attacked. And that was when the words unserious and clownish came out. And it was very strange because those words are like never used. I have not even heard them once in it. And what's really interesting is Milo Yiannopoulos came in and used the same words and then tried to hit me both in the thread and then on his homepage and then in another one. Now he got lit up by the public in it, but hadn't that had that since I planned that, I then posted a little bit afterward. I ran an op for the sake of bait to out it, and I found it. So I ran that post and all the replies and such through AI, which gave it about an 80 to 90% chance that it was an inorganic kind of orchestrated attack because those words were not normally used in a typical MAGA talk, and there were a bunch of accounts that hadn't done that. And it was also interesting about Milo because he doesn't support anybody. That's why his at is at Nero. He just wants to watch Rome burn, which is fascinating because he's a deeply troubled individual, and that's a nice way to put it. Um, he said something about in his comment, my friends were right about you. And somebody says, wait a minute, that's a tell. Who's he hang out with? So I ran that through AI too and whatnot and looked into it. And he was leaked in a signal chat with Pete Hegseth and JD Vance. JD Vance, of course, whose son is actually also named Vivek. He's married to an Indian woman. And JD Vance dedicated his campaign team to help Vivek in Ohio. So, not saying I know for a fact, but there was definitely something behind the scenes there trying to work against me. That didn't work. When I stood up for Massey when Trump was campaigning against him, which I thought was wrong and stupid of Trump, I was getting attacked by bots. Cat Turd tried to attack me. That didn't work. I snapped back and then ratioed them. So, um, yeah, that's what's been happening. I think they're going to run out of shills on the internet to attack me with, and the bots and such don't work. So they're going to have to start amping it up more. So we'll just see what comes, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, it's you bring up an interesting point regarding potential linkage to JD Vance. I think there are speculations or rumors that there's a little bit of a rift between Vance and Vivek insofar as, Vance has endorsed Jay Edwards and
Ah,
Vivek has
yes.
endorsed Christina Rogner. So people are interpreting that as, okay, Vivek is trying to steer or direct the Ohio Republican Party in one direction, whereas MAGA, the, Vance establishment wants to go in a different direction. Do you see that at all?
In some ways, I don't worry too much about specifically the directions either one of them want to shift the Republican Party in Ohio. It's all revolting establishment garbage, and nothing of what I'm seeing in any of that has the best interest of the people in mind. So, frankly, I'm not paying attention to it. However, a rift, I don't know. I mean, they're both grown men with a lot on their plate, so, could have just been whatever. What I do, and I don't know this to be specifically true, but it does appear from what I've gleaned and heard that Vivek, when he came in Ohio, positioned himself specifically and only basically to raise money with everybody that he surrounded himself with. So I don't know if that comes into play here, but I don't, you know, rift between him and JD and the White House and whatnot, or Elon or Trump or anything. Maybe, quite possibly. Obviously there's a hell of a lot of tension and discord within the ever shrinking world of MAGA right now, which you know, the entirety of the America First movement out there, and everybody who's really not MAGA, we are all the people who supported MAGA and supported Donald Trump. It's just that um, he didn't make good on his promises and went a whole nother different direction and took what is known as MAGA with him and left all of us out here just caring about America in the future. So I'm not really worrying too much about MAGA and Vivek and all that jazz right now. I just want to save Ohio to make the future better for all of us.
Well, it sounds like at its core, I mean, those are the principles of MAGA, right? Make America great again, make Ohio great
Oh,
again.
they were before they just sold out to foreign interests and AI and tech bros and such. I mean, there's nothing left. I'm sorry, but there's not objectively, and I have no time or patience to hold out for the hypothetical of 4D chess when everything shows me that that's not what's happening.
Well, it's an interesting segue into another question I want to get to with you. So, a
Mhm.
lot has happened since we last talked, including international events. And for those who have been paying attention to the war or special operation in Iran, it's widely evident that economic hardships are coming due to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. If not because of the rising costs of energy and everything that depends on energy, then from food shortages due to the fact that a third of the world's fertilizer comes through that strait, which is going to impact planting and growing seasons and harvests. If you are elected governor, you will be in charge of helping Ohioans manage this very real looming crisis that is coming, either from just economics, if it doesn't open up, or potential food shortages on top of it. How do you expect to do that? And do you think anything can be done from the governor's seat?
Oh, plenty can be done. Uh, here's the thing. Let's just start right at the base. No nation has ever been taxed into prosperity, which is a short way of saying the government produces nothing. The government only takes. They take away freedoms to create structure, And they take away money to fund whatever in the hell they're actually doing. Now, Ohio is absurdly wasteful, something like $100 billion a year budget. The untold amounts of billions of dollars, and I do mean billions of dollars a year, that are lost to fraud with things like the Somali migrant population, H-1B scams with corporations and such stuff. Literally third world African truckers, Haitians, which Mike DeWine is a gutless little grasshopper, and he's still promoting that are destroying Springfield, Ohio. Medicare, Medicaid. It was my initiative to go in just absolutely tooth and nail, viciously attacking all of the fraud and abuse and just obliterating it. The government, ever since I was a kid, everything I ever look back that was ever hard time on our family, our community, our business, every single problem was created by the government. So if the federal government's going to go out and screw up the world and make all of our lives miserable, then the best way to make Ohioans' lives better is to go in and obliterate everything going on, piss off a hell of a lot of billionaires that are running their scams to cut all the waste, fraud, and abuse. So that money can literally just go back to the people in the form of anything from tax cuts to relief, etc., which will, one, bring them back to feeling whole again. And then as the world hopefully gets better, I'll just keep beating the crap out of all the evil in Ohio, so our lives will get better. But that's the way to do it. Um, and I don't give a damn if anybody from the establishment doesn't like it.
Yeah, at a certain point, you have to act, right?
Yeah, we need some ruthless people who care.
And I'm curious how you think it'll play out with data centers. Ohioans are already seeing massive increases in the cost of electricity due to their gluttonous
Yeah,
usage.
it's
I mean, do you
horrific.
see a potential dispute with that if people are having to navigate increases from, energy constriction in addition to the data center sucking up everyone's bandwidth there?
Yeah, the shortest thing to say is the data centers are 100% a premeditated leech to Ohio and its people. The billionaires, the tech bros, they all knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly how to slip them in before people would even know what they were, in a way that'd be really hard to fight back on. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be an ugly fight, and they are destroying our water, fresh water, our aquifers. There's evidence of that. Um, Massive saps the electrical grid. Heck, there's a 3,700 acre one being planned to build in Ohio that takes like, did I read this right? Like a quarter or a third of the usage of the power of the state.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, that's mind-boggling. And they're like, oh, we're going to bring in gas turbines. Oh, great. So they're going to be giant pollution factories making no product or anybody's lives better at all, just making the entire areas around where they are, from the aquifers to the air to the land to the sound, just horrific. The data centers and AI right now, this is the beginning point of what I truly believe will be one of the worst phases of human history. Because and I'm sure there's been a science fiction or something on this, and I don't mean that in a hokey way, or a book where a nation or a civilization gets to the point where they're putting all of their resources into something that creates nothing for the better of life, people's lives, art, spirituality, anything positive of human existence. These data centers do nothing of. Nothing. Nothing at all. We're not magically making people now live longer. We're not making them more prosperous. We're not giving people where they don't have to work and people can still be more prosperous on them. Nothing. All this is power and control for a few elite that are, frankly, bonkers billionaires with Machiavellian and pathological tendencies that don't see or don't remotely care about the danger of it because it's just power and they're willing to gamble with everybody's lives while making us pay for it. It's I mean, this must be in many ways how people felt about the nuclear arms race during things like the Cuban Missile Crisis and whatnot. A lot of people didn't think there was going to be a tomorrow because there's a lot of people that don't think there's going to be a tomorrow right now. And it's the same basic thing.
Well, you mentioned control, and that is an interesting kind of intro there to what I want to ask you is what do you think is driving the data center boom in Ohio? I mean, obviously it's not to create AI
Oh,
videos
boom.
of cats, right? Like something else is behind this, and what do you think the goal is?
Well, Ohio's a location. It's the right place to take advantage of. They need all the fresh water, the aquifers, the rivers, Lake Erie. I mean, we have tons of water in Lake Erie or in Ohio. That's why it's good for farming. We have pretty good infrastructure. We have relatively cheap energy generation. There's a fair amount of people here, good roadways, I-75, I-80, so we're at the crossroads of America. With the Great Lakes, we can have ships come in from the ocean. We've got good airports around. So Ohio is really one of the top four places in the country specifically for the tech bros to take advantage of, to slip the data centers in. And these billionaires, they don't care about anybody or any place. They're people that they're at home nowhere and at home everywhere. They have no roots. They don't care what they take advantage of or who they hurt. It's only about power. This is only about taking advantage of us, period.
So some people, myself, I'm of the opinion that data centers play into a larger sort of, we'll say, a technocratic surveillance structure that
100%.
might be planned. So do you agree with that sentiment? Do you have another idea about what the usage is going to be for all these data centers?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and it's absurd level. Now, I understand that we keep doing more and more with our phones and social media and all it requires more. But with regard to this, it's something else. It's an arms race, it's computing power, it's backing up for the sake of AI. Um, and I've seen some other things to where the data centers can also potentially be launch pads and charging points for drones and such, which will be the perfect ability to also make them hubs for surveillance state, whether those are launch pads, charging ports, et cetera, for drones. If they're just getting more and more and more flock cameras out there, more ability to sense everybody at all times, to run all of the information from everybody's cell phone, all of the data points of where they are listening at all times. If they're also there for the computing power of using everybody's Wi-Fi within their home specifically to track and know exactly what house you're in at any given time. Um, the levels at which all of our electronic devices in our lives are able to be used in ways people don't even understand to fully um, surveil, track, and even program people is sick. And they need all the computing power in the world for that.
I mean, if you're a freedom-minded person, it almost behooves you to oppose data centers outright, no matter what.
Yeah. The only scary thing about that is when you get into it in terms of relating it to a nuclear arms race is that if we don't, China will. But that's a real bad scare tactic for everybody to go along with the herd to get your head cut off in the slaughterhouse. Um, And that's why I say it's a pretty bad time in human history with regard to this point. Not to be doom and gloom, there's so many good things that are going on. There's so many positives to what, frankly, I and my team are able to do. Um, Getting elected as governor, specifically with policy to make people's lives better, making homes more affordable, saving heritage sites, bringing manufacturing back, be building areas for where innovation can be incubators, and of course, pushing back on data centers so they're not ruining everybody's lives. There's just so many great things we can do that are positive, but it's a very trying time. Um, and I, I'm obviously concerned, but there's been other very concerning times that we've gotten through in terms of humanity, but this is a new one. We haven't been there yet.
Would you support any kind of legislation that would put limits on the purpose or usage of data centers within the state of
Absolutely.
Ohio?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They're already slipping them in under the cover of night effectively, so nobody knew what they were to be able to push back. And it's pretty darn clear their versatility and it being used for other things. So they're just going to keep trying to slip things in. So yeah, I'm wildly against a surveillance state. I'm against flock cameras. We don't need drones up in everybody's business at all time. It's sick. And there's no value to it at all. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That is fantastic.
Want to ask about human trafficking. You've made some comments before about under a Putsch governorship,
Mhm.
you would put together a human trafficking task force in Ohio. Ohio
That's
is
right.
the fifth leading state, for human trafficking. It's also the home of, Epstein co-conspirator Leslie Wexner,
Oh yeah, sure
who
is.
resides in Franklin County.
Hmm.
Can you speak to what this task force would entail?
Well, we got a hell of a lot of amazing military veterans out there that have specialized abilities and tasks. Obviously, you always hear a lot about SEALs, even though they seem to be the ones built to do the CIA's bidding at any given time. But you got like Force Recon and Rangers and things out there. And we have incredible ability to track and find traffickers, pedophiles, the worst. I mean, just camping out at Planned Parenthood, you can find them. So this is not remotely as challenging to do as people might think. Um, so yeah, I specifically am going to put together a task force of ex-special forces guys that can actually be trusted, that are dads, you know? Um, and their job is specifically only to track, target, and hunt human and child traffickers. It's simple. Make Ohio the most dangerous place in America for that, period. With absolute backing up of capital punishment. I'm not going to F around. If you come to Ohio to do harm to our people, we will end you.
A strong statement. Have you had any conversations with current politicians in Ohio about that?
Some small ones. Um, what I see happening is very weak, and that doesn't work for me.
Why do you think it's so weak?
First day in politics. Um,
I want to hear your opinion.
because politicians are owned by other people,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of things going on that politicians need to look the other way from. One of the biggest things that made me go, Trump's not our guy, were the Epstein files and the so-called handling thereof. The United States has the ability to put a device, a drone, a weapon into a car window and take one person out if they need to at any given place. We have that ability. Heck, in the late 1950s, we were building titanium aircraft that could travel at Mach 3 sustained speed and before GPS, shoot through broad daylight and clouds to map the stars to tell them where they are on the planet to photograph massive quantities of the ground in the late 50s. And you're telling me the United States government can't end all human and child trafficking in America? Or is it actually that the United States and stuff is probably helping it? Doesn't work for me.
Do you think Leslie Wexner should be the subject of investigations?
Of course he should. Of course he should. Why don't they?
That was my next question. Yeah, why hasn't he been?
Oh, these billionaires, the other time in human history we're in right now, you can manufacture a billionaire. But keep in mind when you manufacture a new billionaire, I'm not saying Leslie Wexner's manufactured, obviously he holds businesses and such, but Vivek sure looks manufactured. I'm still trying to figure out what he's ever created that's tangibly helped society or you can put a finger on. Anyway, these billionaires, it's getting to a point where it's undermining society. They have too much power. Leslie Wexner, it's fascinating. For so long, he's had a foundation, which is to, if I'm not mistaken, help. cultivate Jewish leadership. I don't mean that in any way slanted. That's matter of fact. I think that's what that is. Jeffrey Epstein was around him for what, a decade, had full power of attorney over the entirety of his state, was effectively given the second biggest and or most expensive home in Ohio from Les Wexner. And they effectively built New Albany together through strong tactics to be able to buy homes and land and set things up in a way so everybody's going to kind of have to sell them their land to build it. Um, yeah, that kind of stinks. Smells, don't it? And it's worse than that. You know, you hear about what politicians have been doing fundraisers at whose houses? Some that may be in the White House right now. So, the truth of the matter is everybody wants to bury their head in the sand, but we live in a pretty sick and evil world. And it's deeply tied in with the entirety of our government. Um, and America's not going to get any better until there's a lot of brave people that are willing to risk it all and speak directly about it so people stop forgetting and for enough of everybody to stand up and start pushing back.
Are you familiar with the Arthur Shapiro murder case?
Not well enough to speak on it, really.
So I'll give you a little briefer. In the 1980s, there's a tax attorney named Arthur Shapiro who worked under Les Wexner and his, affiliates. He was executed mafia style prior to his expected testimony, where he was going to turn state's witness in potential financial crimes. And former Columbus Police Chief James Jackson attempted to destroy a report which suspected involvement from Wexner and his mob connections. To this day, the Arthur Shapiro case has not been solved. There's been no one, arrested or charged with his murder. No RICO filings on that. Do you think under a Putsch governorship that case might be reopened?
Why is that the only one?
Just one of the more interesting ones where there's definitely a thread to pull, I think.
That'd be interesting. Very possibly, yeah. You know, the word mafia with some other descriptors does get thrown around a lot relating to various circles that may or may not be in the Columbus area, even by normies. Um, I We really are at a pivotal moment in American history, and I'm not dodging going away from it, but it's not good. And if I may, I want to make this kind of observation that I wrestle with a bit. All of the people, it seems, in government, the vast majority of them, they can't make anything. They don't create anything good on their own. And a lot of the dark triad personality types that don't do well in normal society end up becoming an asset in the political ladder. And just by virtue of that, over time, we end up being governed by some of the worst people there are. Um, and so much time has gone by since we were any semblance of what this nation was founded on that even in my own lifetime, I look and I just don't see where normal people can succeed anymore. I just don't see where they have enough of a breadth to just live, to be able to build their family, to be able to build their community, to believe in a future. Um, I just don't see it anymore. And frankly, that's why I'm here fighting. And that's why I'm talking about some of the things I'm talking about um, strongly and confidently and without fear. That isn't without absolute understanding of the gravity of the things I'm saying and the danger of the things I'm saying. Um, it just means that there's really not much left for us normies to believe in for tomorrow. I mean, look at Vivek and Amy. Amy Acton is a woman who her best qualities is that she can smile, her hair looks nice, and she's not Vivek. She resigned as health director, citing the pressure was too much. That's who the Democrats want to put as the governor of Ohio, in charge of the better part of $100 billion a year budget and a fleet of F-16s and everybody's future and lives? I don't think so. The woman who locked everybody down for COVID, Vivek, the globalist Trojan horse, born to Indian foreign nationals whose father is still not a citizen. A guy who went to Harvard and Yale and was making over half a million to $700,000 a year still in college, but taking a $50,000 a year scholarship from Soros family money. A guy that was raised Hindu but went to private Catholic school, but is practicing Hindu now. Hey, freedom of religion, I'll fight for that in America. That's kind of weird, ain't it? Guy who has no businesses in Ohio. Guy who's done no real philanthropy in Ohio despite his net worth. And I heard Vivek, and I think he heard my speech before it, but he touted back at this county level thing. It's like, I've given to charity about $100,000. Well, first of all, what charity? But secondly, he spent more than that in a month in jet fuel campaigning in just Ohio. So he clearly doesn't care about anybody here. Um, and I see nothing about a leadership from the anything of the Uniparty. Um, that's going to give anything of a positive future for any of us at all. And frankly, there's just not much left for us normies to be sold out with anymore. Um, so, yeah, I mean, out here campaigning, we're hitting the points. I'm going to be hitting all the policy points here now and this last big month push and fighting back. But it is important, I think, to stay at a high altitude level and look at this and not lose sight of the fact that we've got an Indian globalist in there um, that extouts no virtues and values of what the Republican Party is supposed to be, or conservatives, with connections to so many of what appear to be the world's worst people, if you judge that from being a normal, positive person wanting a good future for everybody. Um, or a revolting Democrat. It's just it's shocking. Um, but thankfully, there's a lot of people standing up for a better tomorrow.
Yeah, and when you speak about these things, I think it's very easy for people to hear the negatives that you're outlining, and that's the reality. It's a very dark reality that we're facing, but that doesn't mean that there's no hope. And I think what I'm also hearing from what you're saying is that there is hope, and that's exactly what's driving you to keep this fight going.
It's
So,
true. I mean, this is a beautiful state. We have beautiful resources, and the first, foremost, and biggest resource of the so-called state is the people, and it's all the people. That's left and right. It's everybody. It's not just white guys, it's everybody. But we're being destroyed. We're being sold out. And we absolutely have to remember that this is to be a government that is for the people and by the people. And the only way it's going to be for the people is if we, the actual people, stand up and put the effort in. Stop being propagandized. Stop being psyoped. Stop being pushed into believe if you don't vote here, it'll throw it away. Stop all that. Think for ourselves. Understand the system. Understand what's going on.
I guess lastly, I want to ask you, do you think Vivek can beat Amy Acton?
Absolutely not. He will lose. Now, I'm not saying that as a platitude. He absolutely will lose because there's a number of factors at play here. He is genuinely, I mean, keep in mind, I am a normal person who would like to be out teaching and trying to build the educational nonprofit, building a watch company, trying to make a living. My wife is pregnant right now. I still have to work for a living. I would love to not be here. Okay. I don't need this in my life. I'm not getting nothing tangibly good is happening in my life because of this. But I'm here because Vivek is that revolting of a candidate that I'm literally risking everything for it, to give another option to Ohioans. And people know that. Every time he opens his mouth, everything else that comes out, and stuff just keeps coming out the more they hate him. Um, And if I don't make it through the primary as the choice for the Republicans and the conservatives, I can tell you guys what's going to happen. Even if I influence nothing, shut up and if I just go away, Republicans are just going to stay at home and not vote. And even the polls that have Amy Acton only leading by maybe like 1 to 3 points or 10 points or whatever, it's much worse than that. They will stay home. I wouldn't support Vivek with a gun to my head. And I absolutely will not support the GOP from the county level and above because everything I have seen so far tells me that it is 100% sold out, bought, gone from the county level and above. And frankly, I've in many ways regretted running as a Republican because I didn't fully realize that. But I think it's important that I'm here because the fact that I'm here, the contrast, somebody who's voted Republican in their life, proud family members, military men going back that are Republican. We've all believed in this. I voted for Trump every single time, contributed to his campaign. We got sold out. So by virtue of me being here, lets the public see how bad it actually is. So if it's Vivek that's in there, they're just going to lose complete support of their base. And the baby boomers that are watching Fox News is not enough for Vivek to win. And frankly, I think he's going to lose the Senate for Ohio too. I mean, the ripple effect because of Vivek is going to be very rough for the GOP in Ohio.
Why run a candidate if he's, so disliked?
Arrogance. Everybody was high off the Donald Trump win, the wave. I was. Heck, my neighbor didn't know the outcome of the election, and I was in such a good mood when Donald Trump got elected. That's since changed, but I was in such a good mood then, and I got out and drove my sports car, and I came back, and when I got back and gave the engine a big rev, whoop-ah! And my neighbor said he heard that and he goes, "Oh, I think Trump must have won," like. So, everybody's very excited about that and pushing in the wave. And I think there was also internal things happening in the GOP. They were trying to break up the kind of DeWine like power structure, perhaps. I think there were some inner plays going on, and they just wanted to push it in and astroturf it early, cleared the field so they can just raise as much money as possible to push it back. And the machine is just so incredibly out of touch. They don't understand the people anymore, and maybe that made a lot of sense then. But Vivek has been out there way too long and gotten stale, and the people see all the cracks in his facade. They see the emperor has no clothes. They just feel that there's nothing genuine or real about him. Um, and of course, many things are happening from Washington, D.C. that all the conservatives despise. The war with Iran, revolting, clearly Israel's war. Bombing Iran back with their nuclear program. Yeah, it's like, oh, we bombed their nuclear program last year, but now we got to go to war with them. Yeah, please. That's terrible. The handling of the Epstein files, shocking and disgusting from the White House. And unregulated AI being tried to be slipped into the big beautiful bill, which was initially defeated and then was a presidential what do you call it, mandate or an executive order. Unregulated AI for 10 years, game over. We're screwed. It won't take that long before the government is barely any more than Plato's allegory of the cave, and it won't matter if it's a Democrat or Republican, and I think Trump knows that. So yeah, Vivek has no shot. I mean, shy of something tragic happening to someone else. No, and if Vivek was smart and wasn't shielded by sycophant imbeciles, um, he should come up with a great excuse of why his businesses are doing great somewhere else, and he should bounce and get out now. Because the other thing is, when he loses, and most especially if he happens to lose to me in the primary, which would be hilarious, that a billionaire that ran for president got beat by a car guy YouTuber. um, his political career is over. So if he was smart, he would bounce out right now and do something else and lay low for a few years and then rebuild if he wants to do something political. But I don't think he or the GOP are that in touch or smart.
All right. Well, again, strong words from Casey Putsch, candidate for governor of Ohio.
I've learned a lot in the last few months. I it genuinely truly is this dark and darker out there. Um, I'm sorry to say that. We know it, we feel it, we don't want to admit it, but it is. Um, and I'm not a person that has it in my character to sell out. I just can't do it. I don't have any other home. And even if there was somewhere else in the world to go, like these silly billionaires that jet off to wherever they want, I would. This is home, and I care about the people. I mean, they're my family, and I don't like my family getting wrecked by the final boss of the Indian call center scammer, as the internet likes to say.
What also sounds like no matter how dark things get, you're not someone who will stop fighting. So I want to give you a final opportunity. Anything that you want to say to Ohio voters as we come up in this primary election?
Well, remember, this has nothing to do with splitting the vote. That's a BS tactic to try to scare you all away. It's a primary right now, me versus Vivek. Vivek cannot win the general. Um, and there's hope. So we're going to leave it up to all of you. I'm not a perfect person, but as someone who cares about Christian values, I try to always be better tomorrow than I was today. Please go to putchforohio.com, consider volunteering or donating. All the money for this has specifically come from all the people of Ohio and around that want to see us do this. There's no foreign influence, there's no big pack money, there's no dark money, there's none of that. And we're making a real and tangible difference. And for the very least, I hope you all remember, whether you're young or old, that this is a government of for the people and by the people. And the only way we're going to keep it and have a good tomorrow is if we remember that we can stand up and make a difference. So I hope you all will consider running for something in the future and bringing good, strong values for everybody. And then when you're done, get out, go live your life, and hopefully cultivate other people with good values. But thank you for watching and listening. I genuinely care. And we sincerely have to do something right now. I just want us all to have a good future.
Mr. Putsch, thank you for taking the time to speak with me tonight. And listeners, viewers, thank you for taking the time to watch. You can read more about Mr. Putsch's platform and see our previous interview over at theohioregister.com.
I'm honored. Thanks for having me.